Am I the antagonist for not buying vegan dessert? So I have this friend named Molly, who's the same age as me. She has many food restrictions, including being vegan and gluten-free. I try to accommodate her when I can, but it's not always possible. I invited her to an annual Christmas party I host with a few of my friends. This year, I baked Rice Krispie treats to decorate. The recipe called for 2 packs of marshmallows, which were around $1, $2 each. I'd like to mention that this is a potluck party. At the party, everyone brought a dish. Molly brought cookies and vegan spring rolls, while others brought a mix of vegan, vegetarian, and meat dishes. Everyone, including Molly, had dinner. The decorating station was not a group activity, and people could go decorate when they wanted to. Molly got upset that the Rice Krispie treats were not vegan and made some snarky remarks at the party. She complained about not having a Rice Krispie treat to eat. Later, Molly went through my freezer to find something to eat for dessert. She pulled out some ice cream sandwiches and asked if she could have some. After trying 2 and not liking them, she threw them out. The next day, I texted her about throwing out the ice cream sandwiches and asked her not to do it at a party. She replied, and we haven't spoken since. So was I wrong for not buying vegan marshmallows and confronting her about the ice creams? Molly was a bad guest. As a guest, you are not entitled to anything. You gracefully accept or decline whatever is on offer. In a potluck situation, if you have special dietary restrictions and really want a dessert, you bring one you can eat yourself. What you don't do is go raiding the fridge and the freezer, take what you like and then discard it like a petulant child. That is just plain rude, and I wouldn't be sad not to see Molly as a guest again. Am I the antagonist for lying to my girlfriend and inadvertently humiliating her on social media? My girlfriend is a very artistic person who loves trying new things. Her most recent obsession is songwriting. About 2 months ago, a friend of hers got her to attend a beginner's workshop for it, and she's been hooked ever since. She's signed up for guitar and voice lessons, and writes whenever she has a moment of free time. When she finishes something, I'm the first person she shows it to. I love seeing her so excited about something, and I'm glad she feels comfortable enough to share her art with me. She is, however, terrible at singing, like truly awful, and to be fully honest, she's not that good at guitar either. But obviously, I never wanted to tell her that. If she asked me how something sounded, I always said it was beautiful. I didn't think there was anything wrong with this kind of lie since it supported her and made her feel more confident. She disagrees. To give some context as to how she found out I was lying, a few weeks ago, she asked me if it would be a good idea to start a TikTok page for her singing and songwriting. I could tell she was excited about it but was nervous about putting her work on the internet. I told her she was crazy talented and should go for it. She lit up after I said this, and in the following days worked really hard to make videos of her original music. They didn't gain much traction, but she seemed to be having fun being a content creator, so I felt like I'd made the right decision in encouraging her. But yesterday, she walked into our bedroom sobbing and demanded to know why I'd told her she could sing. I asked her what she meant, and she threw her phone down for me to look at. On it was one of her TikToks. It was one of those trends where you duet another musician by singing color-coded lyrics. Her video had been reposted to a cringe meme page and had blown up overnight. The comments were all horrible, truthful in some cases, but really mean about it. She asked me again through tears why I'd never told her she was bad. I told her she wasn't bad, people were just mean. If hundreds of comments say I can't sing, then I can't sing, she snapped at me, so stop lying. Okay, I said, fine did wine. You're definitely no Beyonce. You have a really unique sound though, and I love that you share it. I thought she'd feel encouraged by this, but it only made things worse. She started crying harder and insisted that the only reason she posted things in the first place was because I told her she was talented, and now she's been humiliated in front of thousands. She's deleted her TikTok account along with all her videos and hasn't stopped crying or talked to me since. I feel like she's blowing this out of proportion. I was just trying to do a nice thing by supporting her, and it's not my fault, the internet is what it is. I don't think I should have done anything different, but since the internet put me in this position, I'm curious if it will think I'm in the wrong. Am I the a-hole? You deliberately encouraged her to embarrass herself, publicly, instead of being at least somewhat honest. You lied to her repeatedly, telling her what she wanted because it was easier for you in the moment, rather than respecting her enough to have a serious conversation about something she was very passionate about. How difficult is it to say that whilst she sounds good to you, perhaps she should get other opinions, or ask the voice trainer that she sees for a more professional take on what your girlfriend can do to maximize her talent? Instead, you threw her to the wolves after over-encouraging her to believe something untrue, under the guise of caring. Be supportive. Do not routinely lie and knowingly cause someone you purport to care about to humiliate themselves. Am I the antagonist for telling my grandma I don't have to do what she tells me to? The title sounds petulant, but I want to explain things first. So like the title says, I told my grandma, my dad's mom, that I don't need to do what she tells me to. This came after she pressured me to tell my parents I want to go to her house and spend a weekend with her and her husband and claim it as Grandparents' Day. I told her I didn't want to do that, but she told me I need to. She said my dad has never liked her husband and always kept them from having a real and meaningful relationship with my siblings and me. She said my uncle and aunt did the same thing with my cousins, but my cousins are too far gone, and my siblings are too young to hear this from her. But she said I'll be 17 in a couple of months and should be able to tell my parents how it is and make my voice heard. The reason my parents did not raise my siblings and me being close to Dad's mom or her husband is because they had a lot of beef. My dad's dad died when he and his siblings were young kids, and Grandma remarried a year later. Her husband was really domineering about his place, and he would shame my dad and his siblings for holding on to memories of their dad. Their mom did nothing. She even backed him up occasionally when my dad or one of his siblings would turn to her for help. Her husband attempted to take every trace of my grandpa and throw it out. My uncle, the oldest, had to get really angry and kick up a huge fuss to put a stop to it, and my grandma and her husband gave in. But it didn't stop her husband from having accidents in their bedrooms and slowly destroying more photos or more of Grandpa's things. So my dad and his siblings hate their stepdad's guts. Like they have been pretty clear with Grandma and him that if Grandma dies first, he won't have anyone to make sure he's taken care of. My uncle said he would throw him in the worst kind of care facility and leave him to rot and be forgotten like he deserves because he had no positive influence on them. I have seen with my own two eyes on the few occasions I saw Grandma and her husband that he hates traces of Grandpa. We have a couple of photos in our house of him and he glares at them. He also tried knocking one off the wall one time and I spoke up so everyone's attention went to him and he had to stop. He was also really peeved that none of us call him Grandpa. We use his name. Because of all this, I don't really think a lot of either of them, but especially him. I think it's shitty to try and take the memories from my dad and his siblings and deny them the few pictures they have of their dad. I also think he does come across as this really angry guy, and it's not great to be around. Which is why when Grandma mentioned the Grandparents' Day thing, and when she emphasized that it would be more for her husband since she gets called Grandma already, I said no, and dug in my heels, and told her I don't have to do what she tells me. But she said I was acting petulant and childish. Am I the asshole? You should definitely tell your parents about how your grandmother is pressuring you and trying to manipulate you into spending time at her house. It's not fair for her to try to involve you in her own issues, and you shouldn't have to deal with that. Stand your ground and don't let her guilt trip you into doing something you're not comfortable with. Trust your instincts and know that it's okay to set boundaries with toxic family members. Am I the antagonist for giving a coworker the silent treatment because of her tendency to gossip? I intern in an office where I assist associates on their projects. There are other interns besides myself. I've enjoyed working here until a new associate joined the office. She seemed very friendly and sometimes hung out with us interns after work. However, she became too personable at work that it encouraged my co-interns to be less productive. As time went on, she began gossiping about other associates, which made me wonder if she also gossiped behind my back. A few weeks later, the new associate, we'll call her NA, and I had a work-related argument one day, and we spoke about it in her office in private. I found out the next day from a co-intern that NA told him very specific details about our conversation. This frustrated me because NA and I had agreed to keep our discussion private. I called NA out on this the following day and she denied it, claiming, I must have overheard. The last straw happened a few weeks after this when one of my co-interns did not complete her daily tasks because she spent the day with NA in her office talking about her personal life, leaving her tasks to fall onto me. I spoke with the office manager about it and NA overheard it. The next day, NA told the co-intern that I was talking about her to the office manager. At this point, I decided I didn't want to assist NA with her projects because of her tendency to gossip about others, while expecting the interns to view her as a supervisor. I spoke with another associate who has seniority over at NA, and he agreed to assign me more of his projects in place of Anus. I then went to NA's office to tell her I wouldn't be helping her anymore. She angrily stated she was the supervisor and that I had to listen to her. I responded that she doesn't act like a supervisor by gossiping about coworkers behind their backs and refusing to own up to it when she's called out on it. During this argument, she interrupted me, refused to acknowledge my perspective, and even claimed that she had done nothing wrong. By now, it felt pointless to try to resolve this any further. We both left the argument angry, and since then I've set my boundaries by refusing to speak with her if unnecessary. I don't greet her or acknowledge her presence. If either of the office owners ever assign me a task that would require me to speak with her, then I will keep it short, but this is yet to happen. I've been much happier since I've not been interacting with her. I still assist other associates with their projects. I sometimes feel bad when I notice her briefly glance over at me from the corner of my eye, and I can see that she's visibly hurt. I don't get any joy from seeing her upset, but I just can't bring myself to interact with someone who continually stabs me in the back and denies any wrongdoing. Not the antagonist, but be cautious. Ghosting someone at work, especially as an intern, could get you into trouble later if not handled correctly. Make sure the office owners don't think you're causing drama. Ignoring her presence can be seen as creating a hostile work environment, so be polite but distant. She may try to get you in trouble, so pay attention to what's going on around you. Am I the antagonist for telling BFS mom that she didn't get me a job? So I, 23, took a huge step last year and moved in with my long-distance relationship partner, Alex, 25. My biggest focus when we moved into our apartment was securing a job. I had been job hunting and sending in resumes applications as early as a month before moving. But those of you who have been playing the job application game the past couple years or so know how bad the post-pandemic job market is. I ended up finding and getting hired at a place within 6 weeks of moving into mine and Alex's new apartment, which was awesome, but how this came about has become a point of contention. I had originally considered the company I now work for among the places I was applying, but placed it lower on the list given they originally didn't list what they planned to pay, and I considered the commute to be too far to justify the gas. I was also worried it could be a waste of time, as too many businesses are claiming desperate hiring nowadays, but never get back to you. About 3 weeks after moving in, Alex's parents, 65F and 68M, stopped by. His mom was upset because she had stopped by the business before coming by and found it partially closed due to short staffing. She told me I should go apply. I told her I had considered and gave her the reasons why I had not yet applied, but decided to do so since it was clear they were actually in need of staff. Within 2 weeks of sending in my application, I was gotten back to, interviewed, and hired. I ended up learning the pay and the benefits more than justified my commuting time, and I've been happily employed here ever since. The problem is now Alex's mom talks constantly about how she got me that job. Anytime someone asks about my work in front of her and I respond positively, she reminds me that I should thank her, because without her I wouldn't be so happy or paid so well. She never lets it go. She never fails to bring it up. It has been driving me crazy lately, and while I've asked Alex to speak to her about it, she hasn't pulled back. I had a very long day yesterday and ended up snapping at her at the dinner table when she brought it up again, saying I just don't thank her enough for getting me that nice job. I told her that she didn't get me my job, I did. She didn't work through my previous jobs, build my skills, or compile my resume for me. She didn't fill out my application, she didn't go to my interview or my training. That was all me. I told her I appreciate that she let me know they were understaffed and renewed my interest in applying, but that the person who gets me my job and my money is me. She isn't happy with me and has called me disrespectful and says I just have no respect for older people. Alex agrees with me that she's been pushing it too far, but wants me to make peace. I don't think I should have to. Am I the jerk? It sounds like the mother is displaying narcissistic traits and an entitled attitude. If she truly helped in a meaningful way, that would be one thing, but simply pointing out that a place is understaffed does not constitute getting you the job. It's been a year and her need for constant praise and accolades is wearisome and annoying. If your partner is choosing his mother's behavior over your relationship, it may not be a lasting one. My husband won't explain his financial situation. Should we get a divorce? First time posting here. Let me start the post by saying my husband is a thoughtful, kind person that comes from a wholesome, loving family. He has treated me so well and given me everything he has. I have no doubt of his character, and I love his family. We dated for less than a year before we got married, which happened very recently. The marriage felt a bit rushed for both of us, but we did it anyway just so I didn't have to renew my work visa. Throughout the time we were dating, he was very generous, paying for everything, buying me gifts, and taking me on trips. Meanwhile, he didn't have a job. His explanation was that he made smart investments early on and was living off a sizable passive income. I accepted this explanation. A week after we were married, we started filing for a green card for me. He's a US citizen and a sponsor in this case. My lawyer asked for a bunch of things from him, including tax history. He told me he didn't file much and refused to show me any tax records. He showed me he has $1 in the bank, which is more than sufficient for him to qualify as my sponsor. Then I asked for past 3 months of bank statements because we could use that in the filing. He refused to show me. He then generated a balance sheet which showed that a month ago, this account had not much money. This was when things took a downturn. He basically flipped out, calling me materialistic, unsupportive, and the worst wife a man could ask for. I was made to feel guilty and caved. Then a day later, senses started to come back to me. I told him just because as his wife I wanted transparency doesn't mean I'm materialistic. He said he couldn't tell me things when we were dating because then I'd freak out. My guess, and I could be wrong, is that he was not very financially responsible, and his portfolio wasn't generating the type of passive income he claimed to have. He was probably just draining the account. He comes from a well-to-do family, and his parents probably helped out before we got married. My concern is that now I realize this whole time he was hiding his financial situation from me. Down the road, will I find out more things he didn't tell me out of protection? Factoring future kids in, things will just get more complicated. So now I basically just want to know where he got this money and what his next steps are. He says moving forward I will have full transparency over our joint account, but he has to keep his past private. He says the origin of the money is not sinister, and he had the best intentions of giving us a strong start. He says he cashed out on some other investments to have this current on him but refuses to disclose details. He now also says that the trust is broken. He would rather get an annulment or divorce than disclosing all the information I want to know. He says he wants me to believe him and that we can build a life together from here. He says he loves me and will always love me. I don't know what to do. Should I get a divorce? I feel so sad. I thought I found my home. I thought he was the love of my life. Based on what you shared, it sounds like you're in a really tough spot. If he's willing to hide something from you and threaten divorce rather than be honest, that's a major red flag. It's not worth staying in a situation where you can't trust your partner, especially if it could jeopardize your safety or relationship in the future. Trust your instincts and prioritize your own well-being above all else. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.